I want you to, just for a second, picture your standard Friday night. You've had a long week, you don't feel like cooking, so order a pizza, it shows up, you open the box, that steam hits you in the face. But before you grab a slice, maybe you're feeling a little fancy, you go to the fridge, grab that little plastic clamshell, you pinch off a few green leaves, and you just sort of scatter them on top.
The garnish.
The garnish. We treat it like confetti. It's flavor text.
Yeah.
It's just there to make the food look finished. But I've been reading through this new breakdown of research, an article by Dr. Eric Berg from earlier this month, and I've realized I have been completely disrespecting that little green speck.
It's funny how we do that. We put our food in these neat little boxes.
Yeah.
We have fuel, like chicken and rice.
Yeah.
We have fun, which is the pizza itself.
Right.
And then we have decoration. We almost never look at a pizza topping and think, pharmacology.
Exactly. But that is precisely the mission today. We are taking a deep dive into basil. And I don't mean we're going to swap pesto recipes, although we might get to that later. We're looking at the biochemistry. Because if this data is right, that leaf isn't just decoration. It's an antimicrobial weapon, a liver protector, and this is the part I'm still trying to wrap my head around, a metabolic regulator that might actually stop your body from creating fat.
It sounds a bit hyperbolic when you put it like that. Fat blocker sounds like something you'd see on a late-night infomercial.
It does.
But when you strip away the culinary side and just look at the botany, you aren't looking at a salad green. You're looking at Ocimum basilicum. It's a powerhouse member of the Lamiaceae family.
Which, okay, that puts it at the same Thanksgiving table as, what, mint, rosemary, and oregano.
It does. And if you look at the history of medicine, particularly Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, these cousins have been the heavy lifters for thousands of years. Modern nutritional science is really just kind of reverse engineering what traditional healers have known forever. This plant is a complex biological tool.
So before we get into the heavy chemistry, the fat blocking and liver enzymes and all that, we should probably orient ourselves. I went to the grocery store this morning just to prep for this, and I stood there for a minute realizing basil isn't.
Right.
It's not just one thing. The source says there are nearly 150 varieties.
It's a massive genetic family, a huge one. And while they all share a lineage, they are chemically distinct. You can't just treat them as identical tools in the medicine cabinet. The chemical profile of the basil you put on pasta is different from the one in a Thai curry and very different from the one used in the temple in India.
Okay, so let's just run through the big six from the research quickly just so we know what we're actually buying. First up is the standard issue, sweet basil.
This is the workhorse. Rounded leaves, medium green, usually has that little downward point on the tip. If you buy a generic basil plant at the hardware store or grab that clamshell, this is almost certainly what you're holding. It's got that mild, slightly minty sweet profile.
Then you've got its big brother, Genovese basil, which it looks similar, but just bigger.
Think of Genovese as sweet basil that went to the gem. It's the Italian cultivar native to Genoa. The leaves are larger, flatter, usually a darker, glossier green. The aroma is much punchier. If you're eating a really high-end pesto where the flavor just explodes, you're probably tasting Genovese.
Okay, now let's travel a bit. Thai basil. This is the one that always throws me because I expect pesto and I get licorice.
That anise flavor is the trademark. It's very distinct. Physically, it's totally different, narrower leaves, often purple stems, and chemically, it's built to withstand heat. Sweet basil wilts if you just look at it wrong.
Yeah.
A Thai basil can actually survive a stir-fry.
And then there's lemon basil, which, I'll be honest, I struggle with. It smells a little like furniture polish to me.
That's the citral. It's the same compound you find in lemon peel. It has white flowers, lighter green leaves. It's delicate, but on seafood, it connects that herbal note with the acid you usually want on fish.
And purple basil, is that just for the Instagram aesthetic?
Not totally. The anthocyanins give it that purple color, same antioxidants you find in blueberries. But flavor-wise, it actually leans more toward clove. It's much spicier than the green stuff.
And finally, the big one for this medical discussion, holy basil.
Tulsi. This is the sacred one. Yeah, you generally don't put this on a pizza. It's revered in India for religious and medicinal reasons. The leaves are toothed, oval, and the flavor is bitter, almost peppery. It's really medicinal herb first, culinary second.
Okay, so we've got the cast of characters, but the real core of this deep dive is about what these leaves across the board do inside the human body. The article breaks it down into 5 major benefits, but I don't want to just list them off. I want to trace the path of the basil through the body.
That's a smart way to approach it. Follow the digestion.
Right. So I eat the leaf. First thing it interacts with is my gut and the microbiome. This brings us to benefit number one, the antimicrobial properties.
This part is fascinating because what we're seeing is plants that have developed
Huh?
weapons. The specific compound at play here is linalool.
Linalool, it sounds so gentle.
It's anything but. It's a terpene alcohol. To us, it smells fragrant and pleasant, but to a bacterium, it's a toxin. The plant produces it to stop pests, fungi, and rot from destroying its leaves. When we ingest it, that protection, it sort of extends to us.
And we aren't talking about fighting off, like, the common cold here. The list of pathogens this stuff affects is like a who's who of food poisoning.
It is a serious lineup. Staphylococcus, Listeria, E. coli. These are heavy-hitting pathogens that cause significant illness.
So if I'm eating a salad that might be, let's say, a little questionable at a picnic, having basil in the dressing is essentially acting like a security guard.
In a way, yes. It decreases the activity of those pathogenic bacteria.
Ooh.
It inhibits their ability to replicate. And Dr. Bergs brings up a really crucial point here about antibiotic resistance. We're living in an era where our standard medicines are starting to fail. Bacteria are evolving.
Right. The superbugs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So finding compounds in food that can suppress things like E. coli or staph without, nuking our entire system with synthetic antibiotics, that's a major area of research right now. It suggests regular consumption helps keep the bacterial load in the gut more manageable.
That's wild. Okay, so the basil survives the stomach, it fights off the E. coli, and now the nutrients are getting absorbed and heading to the main processing plant. Benefit 2, hepatoprotection.
The liver.
Hepato meaning liver, and this is where we shift our focus from linalool to flavonoids.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, the liver is basically the body's main filtration plant, right?
Yeah.
It is the hardest working organ you have. Everything you eat, drink, breathe, or absorb through your skin eventually gets processed there. This causes a massive amount of oxidative stress. Think of it as biological rust, wear and tear on the machinery. Flavonoids in basil seem to boost the activity of antioxidant enzymes specifically within the liver.
The research got pretty technical here with two acronyms, AST and ALT. I usually just gloss over these on my blood work because they just look like alphabet soup. But what are they actually telling us?
Think of AST and ALT like factory workers.
Sure.
They're enzymes that are supposed to be working inside the liver cells, keeping the assembly line moving. If you do a blood test and find high levels of AST and ALT floating around in your bloodstream, it means they aren't where they're supposed to be.
They escaped.
They've leaked out. And they only leak out if the factory walls, the cell membranes, have been breached or damaged by inflammation. So high AST and ALT is a distress signal. It's a smoke alarm.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So high numbers mean a damaged liver.
Correct. And the data we have on basil shows that consistent intake correlates with lower levels of these enzymes in the blood.
Which implies?
Which implies the cells aren't leaking anymore. The basil is helping maintain the structural integrity of the liver cells. It's keeping the factory walls intact so the workers stay inside.
That is a great analogy. So we've cleaned the gut, we've shored up the liver walls, now we're moving into the bloodstream and how the body handles energy. Benefit 3. This is the one I think affects the most people listening. Blood sugar and metabolism.
This is the universal struggle of the modern diet. Glucose control.
So the claim here is that basil slows down glucose absorption. It's acting like a speed bump.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
When you eat carbs, your body usually rushes to turn them into blood sugar. Basil compounds seem to inhibit the enzymes responsible for that breakdown. So instead of a massive sugar spike that sends your system into a panic, you get a slower, more manageable curve.
There was a study cited from Advances in Integrative Medicine that really caught my eye. It didn't just talk about blood sugar numbers, it mentioned pancreatic beta cell function.
And this is the really exciting part. Beta cells are the tiny factories in your pancreas that actually make insulin. In type 2 diabetes, these cells get exhausted. They burn out from overwork. This study suggests basil doesn't just lower the sugar, it actually supports the function of the machinery that handles the sugar.
So it's treating the engine, not just messing with the fuel.
It appears to be preserving the organ's ability to do its job. And that's a significant distinction from just lowering blood sugar.
Okay, now we get to the heavy hitter. Benefit 4. I had to read this 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The fat blocker.
I had a feeling you'd zero in on this one.
Well, yeah, you can't just drop a phrase like inhibits lipogenesis and walk away. My skepticism is high here. How on earth does a leaf stop me from gaining weight? Is this real science or is this just wishful thinking?
It's biochemistry. We need to talk about eugenol. It's a phenolic compound.
Yeah.
It's also what gives clothes their smell, incidentally. Eugenol has this fascinating dual effect. First, physically, it relaxes blood vessels, which is great for blood pressure, but metabolically, it interferes with lipogenesis.
Lipogenesis, which literally means fat creation.
Yes. Let's walk through the process. You eat that pizza. You have excess blood sugar that your liver doesn't need for immediate energy. Your body's default evolutionary setting is save this for later. So it converts that sugar into fatty acids to be stored in adipose tissue,
The spare tire?
the spare tire.
Right.
That conversion process requires a very specific enzymatic pathway. Eugenol appears to inhibit that pathway. It puts a roadblock up.
Wait, so let me get the sequence straight. If I ate a pizza with basil on it, the basil is first slowing down the sugar absorption in my gut. That's benefit 3. And then, for the sugar that does get through and hits the liver, the eugenol is telling the body, hey, don't turn this into fat. That's benefit 4.
That is the 1-2 punch that the research suggests. Now, I do want to be clear here. Eating a single basil leaf is not going to cancel out an entire large pepperoni pizza. It's not magic.
Right, of
But
fat.
biochemically, it is pushing back against those storage mechanisms. It's signaling the body to process energy differently.
That is incredible. It really connects the dots between metabolic health and weight management in a way I just hadn't thought about before.
It does. And that leads perfectly into benefit number 5, which kind of feels like the result of all the others. Inflammation.
Right, because if your liver is stressed and your sugar is high and you're storing fat, then you are, by definition, inflamed.
Inflammation is the common denominator. Heart disease, diabetes, liver issues, they are all, at their core, inflammatory conditions caused by free radicals.
We hear free radicals all the time. Those are just the unstable molecules that damage cells.
Think of them like sparks flying off a faulty machine. If you don't catch them, they start a fire. Basil is rich in antioxidants that catch those sparks. But the key term that was used in the Iranian Journal of Basic Medical Sciences was immunomodulatory.
That's a mouthful.
It's an important one, though. It doesn't just boost the immune system, which isn't always good, by the way. Allergies are a boosted immune system. It modulates it. It acts like a volume knob. It calms down the chronic low-level inflammation, the fire in the tissues, while keeping your acute defense system sharp.
So we have a plant that fights bacteria in the stomach, protects the liver walls, regulates sugar spikes, blocks fat creation, and cools down system-wide inflammation. It honestly sounds too good to be true. So let's look at the fine print. I'm looking at the nutritional specs now.
It's shockingly clean.
I pulled the USDA data. 5 fresh leaves, 0.6 calories, 0 fat, 0 sugar. And for the keto crowd or anyone watching carbs, the count is just laughable.
It's effectively zero net carb.
Yeah, 0.1 grams of carbs minus 0.1 grams of fiber. It's a free food.
But unlike, say, celery or iceberg lettuce, which are also free foods, but are mostly water, basil is dense with vitamin K, magnesium, iron, phosphorus. You're getting a micronutrient injection for basically 0 caloric cost.
So how do we actually get enough of this into us? Because the article implies that a single leaf on a pasta dish, that's not going to give me these therapeutic doses we're talking about.
No. To get the medicine, you really need volume. You need to start treating it like a vegetable, not just a spice.
Pesto seems like the obvious answer.
Pesto is the best delivery system. You're condensing cups and cups of leaves into a sauce, usually with healthy fats like olive oil, which actually helps with absorption.
But the source also suggested some weird ones. Strawberry basil lemonade.
It's actually excellent. The herbal notes cut the sweetness of the fruit, also using it in vinegar infusions, or, since we talked about Thai basil, using it in high-heat curries where you can wilt down a whole bunch of it almost like it's spinach.
I'm ready to go buy a planter. But, and we have to do this, we have to be responsible, we need to talk about the contraindications. Because if something is powerful enough to be medicine, it has side effects like medicine.
That is the golden rule of pharmacology. There is no biological free lunch. If it has an effect, it has a side effect.
So the first warning Dr. Berg flags is about blood pressure. We just praised basil for lowering blood pressure with eugenol, so why is that a risk?
Because of the additive effect.
Yeah.
If you have high blood pressure, basil is great. But if you are already on medication to lower your blood pressure, and then you start consuming massive amounts of basil pesto, you might.
Yeah.
You might crash your pressure.
We're talking fainting, dizziness, that sort of thing.
Hypotension. Yeah. You don't want to double dose your system, one chemical, one natural, without monitoring it. You could bottom out.
And the second risk is a bit of a paradox, and it involves blood clotting.
This is a tricky one. So generally, leafy greens have vitamin K, and vitamin K helps blood clot. So usually people on blood thinners like warfarin are told, Watch your greens. Don't eat too much spinach.
Right, because it cancels out the thinner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, holy basil is different. It actually slows blood clotting. So you have a situation where the herb might thin your blood too much if you're already on anticoagulants.
So if you have a bleeding disorder or you're on blood thinners, holy basil isn't just a garnish, it is a risk factor.
You absolutely need to talk to your doctor. It increases the risk of bruising and bleeding. It's potent stuff. And, natural does not mean neutral.
It really changes how I view the produce section. We walk past these things every single day. We see the parsley, the cilantro, the basil, and we just think flavor.
We do, but I think the takeaway from this whole breakdown is that flavor is actually just the way our body perceives bioactive compounds. We are hardwired to taste these things because evolutionarily they did work for us. They sanitized our food, they protected our livers, they regulated our energy.
That's a really cool way to look at it. Our taste buds are basically guiding us to the medicine cabinet.
In a way, yes.
So here's the thought I want to leave everyone with today. We spend so much time and money on supplements, on detox teas, on these complex diet plans to try and hack our metabolism. But we have this innocent-looking plant sitting right there next to the tomatoes that can literally block the creation of fat and fight listeria.
It makes you wonder what else in the produce aisle is just sitting there hiding a superpower we haven't unlocked yet.
Exactly. When food becomes functional, the grocery store becomes a pharmacy.
That's the goal.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us. Go enjoy some pesto responsibly.
Take care.